Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about Thing because I didn't do a dedicated video for him like I did for Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, and Johnny Storm, Human Torch, and I feel as though he's not really getting much attention, and rightfully so. He's not a standout character from this update. He's not Invisible Woman, he's not Human Torch, but he still has a lot to offer, and I think he has a lot of potential. So I think a lot of the things that I said about Human Torch in terms of having the right tools, having the right skills, the right effects, the right passives to make a splash and be even more impactful in the future when they perhaps get a uniform or a tier 3 or both or something like that. A lot of those same ideas actually do apply to Thing. And also, I kind of just sat here and thought about it because you guys have been asking me in the YouTube comments, hey, Cynicalex, when are you going to make a video about Thing? Hey, when are you going to highlight, showcase Ben Grimm? And so I sat here and I went through his skills and I just thought and I said, you know, how can I really talk about this character in an interesting way, and how can I really try to understand this character in a way that, you know, actually illustrates his value? Because it's really easy to just say, you know, he sucks, he doesn't have a lot of iframes, he does low damage, that's it. But you can literally say that about so many characters, and that's such a shallow way of looking at a character that I wanted to go a lot deeper. So actually, the really hilarious thing is I'm going to be comparing, not really comparing, but I'm going to be talking about Thing and his relation in terms of some of his design and effects compared to Stryfe. Yes, basically the #1 PvP character, the #2 PvP character in the game, if you ask certain people. I'm going to be comparing Thing to Stryfe because funny you should ask what the hell I'm talking about. They have a lot in common. So it's actually really funny, and it's not just that they have things in common, but you'll see what I'm saying. So in general, Thing I think is more geared towards PvP than PvE. However, I do think that he is an excellent support PvE character for the Fantastic Four because of Family Man. You have to get him to tier 2, but he's kind of like a half support a la someone like Valkyrie or Coulson, because instead of having the increased damage against supervillains and the decreased damage received, instead of having the guaranteed crit rate or something like that, he's got super armor and 40% all attack. I'm not really going to talk about the other things there on the list because you're not really going to encounter any reflect in PvE game modes except for Shadowland, and that's just something you have to avoid with iframes or switch up the typing. And then the all defense 5% is pretty much irrelevant. But the super armor 40% all attack is very meaningful because he's the first character to have that kind of passive, to give an all attack buff which is equal to some of the best leaderships in the game to any Fantastic Four ally, which includes She-Hulk, which includes Crystal. And then more importantly, the super armor passive is actually super valuable because it allows you to build characters that don't have super armor and that would otherwise get guard broken like the rest of the Fantastic Four. None of them have super armor or guard break immunity. It allows you to build them purely offensively without guard break immunity, without worrying about that. You know, even if Human Torch didn't have any dodge, although he has an insane amount of dodge, even if he didn't have dodge, you could just always pair him with Ben Grimm and he would never get guard broken against Corvus or Call Obsidian or Thanos or any of the other PvE content that guard breaks. So he actually does have a lot of value as a support character. But beyond that, I mean, because Stryfe doesn't have any of that support, how exactly does Thing match up to Stryfe? Cynicalex, what the hell are you smoking? What happened? Did you melt your brain after that CEO roast? Well, the first way that he applies, or that he relates to Stryfe, is that he applies Fracture on almost every single skill. It's 1, 2, 4, and 5 all apply. So 4 out of 5 skills for Thing apply Fracture. And if you guys don't know what Fracture is, you can go and read about it in the game guide, but it decreases an enemy's attack stat, so they'll do less damage to you, and then it also slows down their recovery rate. And if you stack enough Fracture, I believe it's 10 stacks or 15 stacks of Fracture, they will no longer be able to heal. So you can actually completely shut down a Deadpool or a Wolverine or a Hulk's healing factor if you hit them enough with Fracture. Now it's a lot easier, it's definitely a lot easier for Stryfe to do that than Thing, because Stryfe has multiple skills that have, you know, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 hits, and he has lots of skills that you can cancel that will keep their effects up because he is the type of character that use, you know, telekinesis. He has all these insane kind of supernatural powers, and so he's able to summon all these constructs and these sort of things at the same time. So he can summon these cannons, gates, you know, these tornadoes. He can do all these things while he's summoning other things and moving around. So because of that, obviously Stryfe is a much more potent version of Thing. But if Thing got, you know, some skills a la, let's say, Hulk, with a future update, you could absolutely see that becoming a lot more relevant, because Hulk has a ton of very fast hits in quick succession. I don't know what the hell that was, but anyways, in quick succession with his 4th skill and 5th skill. He's got lots of, you know, quick attacks, or he spins around. And so if each of those hits was applying Fracture for someone like Ben Grimm with Thing's skills, that would quickly stack up the Fracture stacks up to 10. And the beautiful thing about Fracture is that it's not countered by debuff. So having Wasp, having a debuff leadership like Jean Grey or Odin or even Stryfe won't actually protect you from Fracture. The second thing that makes Thing similar to Stryfe, and this one actually is crazy, is Rock Solid. He has a 50% damage reduction flat, and that is exactly the same damage reduction that Stryfe has, and that's one of the reasons that Stryfe is so powerful. I mean, he's immune to Fracture, he's immune to Incapacitation, which are also very important effects, which does make Stryfe better than Thing, absolutely. But holy shit, 50% all damage reduction, that's a higher damage reduction than a lot of most other native tier 2s have. I mean, Dr. Doom has none, and he only has damage reduction when you pair him with Victorious. So the fact that Thing has that is actually crazy. And it does mean that he has the possibility, again, in the future, of being a good PvP character, which is very cool. So for those of you that are big Thing fans, I wouldn't say that you should kind of throw in the towel just yet. I would say build him up kind of little by little. I would go with something like physical attack HP recovery rate, and I would probably go with a CTP of refinement. Now, if you're going to be serious about PvP with Thing, you probably can't use a refinement CTP because you need guard break. So you probably want to go with like guard break, max HP, invincibility. He doesn't have native recovery, so giving him recovery rate just won't work unless he has an actual heal. But a CTP refinement is a nice kind of in-between if you're going to be playing manually in timeline battle, or if you don't take PvP too seriously but you still want him to kind of do some work. As far as his ISO 8 set, I like Power of Angry Hulk, and I think it's a pretty good overall set, but you could also go for something much more defensive like Binary Power or Drastic Density Enhancement. Either one of those would be decent. He doesn't have very high ignore defense on his gear. He does have some skill cooldown, but it's also a bit low on his second gear, so you're going to struggle to max out both of those. Actually, right now, I have only 46.5% ignore defense with max cooldown, so he actually really needs a uniform. You may need to pop some cooldown or ignore defense on his Uru to compensate for that if you don't upgrade his gears to 20 and then reroll one of these 4th options. But that is kind of how I would go with the build. I wouldn't really go with a damage proc, but I will show you some gameplay now, and we'll see just how well he does without a damage proc. We're going to dive into some Proxima. We're going to dive into a stage 20. Stage 20 is the lowest stage that you should be playing anyways once you get up to this level, because it's when you can start getting premium cards and CTPs from the booty box, so I don't really need to tell you any further than that is why you should be doing it. I'm going to give him this leadership for a total of 105% all attack bonus, and then we're going to drop off Shuri. This is probably the absolute best team up, and then we're just going to go with one striker just to, well, no, let's just see if he can actually handle it. Let's go with 0 strikers. Now, the thing that does make it a bit awkward, or not awkward, but the thing that makes Thing less effective in PvE is the fact that Fracture doesn't have an effect, and this is something that I would like to see Netmarble change. Fracture having an effect would actually be meaningful, because for a character that can survive, for a character that can deal enough damage but can't survive, they could take advantage of Fracture as a means of reducing the damage that they take as incoming damage to the point where the boss is kind of neutered, and then they could use that to, you know, actually win. So I think that would be a nice way of allowing defensive characters to shine in a way, because if they have high enough defense, if they have high enough recovery rate, and if they can reduce the enemy's damage, the world boss's damage with Fracture, then they won't die, and then they can slowly chip away at the enemy, and even though it takes the full 5 minutes, it doesn't matter, you can actually get it done with a super defensive character like a Moon Knight or something similar to that. As far as his skill rotation goes for this world boss stage, I'm opening with the 5th skill because that is by far Ben's best ability. It's got long iframe and it's got 3 nice hits. It's also pretty good to open with PvP. And then I go into his 3rd skill. Because of his low cooldown, you can almost do just 5 and 3, and that will protect you for the vast majority of the battle. But you do need to be careful, of course, when Proxima decides to do like purple circles. You know, the penetration goes through everything, so it doesn't really matter if you have immunity up or if you have an iframe up. You're going to get super punished. If you're a bit surprised, if you're seeing spikes in damage at times, it's definitely because Reed is coming in and striking. Reed is a CTP of energy. He's level 62, so it's very likely that he's helping Thing out in a big way. And because he's got 104%, you can, or 105% damage from the leadership and the passive stacking. That's why. You saw the heal there from the CTP of Refinement. It was only 10%, so it wasn't that much. He probably would have healed up to around 40% or more if I had the 20%, but I only had the 10%. So, oh, I got guard broken there because of the penetration. And now we're going to have to run. But yeah, he's definitely usable. I could probably go to a stage 25, possibly even a stage 30. I could definitely do a stage 30 with a damage proc, Obelisk, which again I don't think is the best option for him, but it is a possibility, and it's something that, you know, if you're a fan of the character, absolutely, you're just gonna have to bring in someone like Anti-Venom, because as you can see, if I wasn't able to heal, I did just heal up again from about 18,000 back up to 35. But if I didn't have the CTP of Refinement, I would be a lot closer to death right now. So if you don't have someone like Anti-Venom or someone like, I guess, Baby Groot's uniform or Ancient Ones, then you're going to have to kind of manually switch. If you can't bring those characters in as strikers, you're going to have to manually switch to someone who can heal Thing in between. Or you have to just play like a god and not take any damage, which is, it's possible. Maybe not here, maybe not at this junction of the game, but definitely for the first half of the fight against Proxima. Other than Proxima, I don't see Thing doing very well. You could try him against Corvus, but he's going to need to stack a lot of ignore defense because he doesn't have any natively, so you have to make up a full 100%, unless you were, you know, wild enough to give him a CTP of energy, but the number of hits on Thing's skills is so few that it just won't have very much of an impact to give him a CTP of energy. And that's also why his Fracture just doesn't, you know, have as much of an impact, despite the fact that he's got Fracture on 4... I might die here. Nope, he's got Fracture on 4 different abilities. Despite that fact, he just doesn't stack it up fast enough because his 5th skill has the most hits, and it's like 10 hits or 12 hits. Stryfe does more hits in probably 1 skill than Thing does in all 5 of his skills combined. But he's not bad. He's able to crank out a stage 20 with a pretty decent leadership, and well, the best leadership for him, and a good support. But he's definitely no slouch. He may be the worst character of the Fantastic Four, but he's definitely usable, and he's a solid support character. And I think in the future, when he gets a uniform, we may be seeing big things out of the Thing. So let me know what you guys think of my analysis and my comparison to Stryfe. Let me know what you think a uniform for Thing could look like, because I'm really curious about that, what you guys think in terms of the look and in terms of what maybe extra abilities or changes to his skills it could bring. I know it's a little bit painful to be talking about a uniform so soon after a character's been introduced, but the great thing about the Fantastic Four is they have so many iconic looks. I mean, Future Foundation is just one off the top of my head that makes them all look so cool. And then that also opens up the door for other characters like Spider-Man to get new uniforms as well. So let me know what you guys think. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. Hit me up on Twitch for more. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.